You're listening to the Sir Walter Jones Show.
Thursday.
Let's go. Sir Walter Jones. Who is it? Sir Walter Jones. What's his name? Sir Walter Jones. Whose show is this? Sir Walter Jones. Who is it? Sir Walter Jones. Say it again. Sir Walter Jones. Who you with? Sir Walter Jones. One more again. Sir Walter Jones.
The Sir Walter Jones Show. Co-host Alvin Carter. We are a Christian talk show in where we tackle all the hot topics in a believer's walk.
Sir Walter Jones. Who is it? Sir Walter Jones. What's his name? Sir Walter Jones. Whose show is this? Sir Walter Jones. Who is it? Sir Walter Jones. Say it again. Sir Walter Jones.
Proverbs 18:10. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and is safe. Got a question about scriptures? Well, we got the answers. Just ask the elders. It's Theology Thursday, right here on the Sir Walter Jones Show.
Tell me, who can I run to? I need to know who I
Everybody, Sir Walter, the Sir Walter Jones Show. I'm he. It is Thursday. Theology Thursday. We sit around the mic and talk about the Bible, the Bible. Man, that's the book for me. I'm just so excited about what's going on in the kingdom of God. And I'm really excited about what's going on also in the nation. Okay. Man, I tell you, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting show because we want to talk about this post-election and all the things that went on for many of you who went out there. And you've exercised your right. Men and women of days old have died for our right to do what we did a couple of days ago, and we pulled that lever. And we made our choices. We live in a wonderful country where we have a thing called the Constitution, and the process works. It has been working for a few hundred years, and it's been working. Well, this is the 45th time we got somebody in there. Well, depending on if you're going to count that Grover guy who got in there twice. It's up to you.
Exactly.
It's up to your math. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we actually we have to talk about the Christian response to this election. I got my brother Elder Rodney Jones here.
Yes, sir.
He's going to give us a Christian point of view in Scripture. We're going to kind of go in and out of Romans chapter 13. And I got the Bishop Tavis Grant here, who is a dear friend of ours, who is or high school.
Yes, sir.
West Side.
About it.
Mm-hmm. No doubts about it.
Singing and preaching.
Singing and preaching.
No
yeah.
doubt about it.
Yeah, he is here, and he's going to give us a political point of view because, you know, we need that. We got a man of God who is in the social and political and community world, and we need that. All of you preachers out there complaining about what's going on in Chicago, but you don't step no foot outside your churches. There's no walking, no knocking on doors, no nothing. So we are blessed to have men who are out there who are knocking on doors and who are rallying up the troops, your mothers and fathers and your children. They're visiting the schools. They're down there at City Hall. They're down there at the ward, in the police stations. They're there. These are the men who we need to rally around and support them. And then on Sunday mornings, they're right there in the pulpit preaching the word of God. Now, these are the men we need to support. So, yeah, let's go here. Dr. Bishop, you all right? How's your mic doing?
Check.
Oh, there it is. It's live. It's live, full and effect.
No doubt about it.
Elder Rodney Jones, we'll start with you first, since we just got about an hour on this show here.
Yes, sir.
Start with you first. We're going to Romans chapter 13, and it's talking about the responsibilities towards higher powers. Okay, and I don't know, does this affect us? Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God.
Yes, sir.
Help us out with that. Why did the Apostle Paul bring that up?
Because, see, although we are saved, sanctified, baptized, and filled, Holy Ghost filled individuals, and although we are not of the world, but we are in the world, and although that we are citizens of heaven, the Bible says once we gave our life over to the Lord, we became citizens of heaven, yet we live on this earth. And as long as we live on this earth, we must abide by the laws of the land as long as it does not contradict God.
Yeah, contradict God.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once it contradicts God, God is the head over the earth. He says the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof the world and they that dwell therein. So we got to really obey governors, rulers, mayors, all of these individuals that has really been placed here to keep this earth in order, even though some of them may be out of order. But we still have to be subject to them. Jesus was even subject to the laws of the land when he was here on earth.
Right.
He's subject himself, and he's God. He made the earth.
That's the last time I checked, he did.
Yeah, he made the earth. Yet he's subject himself, and he is the great example of how it should be done.
How it should be done. And that's a wonderful way of putting it. Now he is a wonderful way. He is the example.
Yes.
So as we look at the civil of Chicago, I don't care if it's Detroit, or I don't care if it's Washington, D.C., these people who are placed in office that we voted in, did God have a hand in some of that?
Yes, he has a hand because this earth still belongs to God.
Yeah.
And even when you go back even to the Old Testament scriptures, when you look at Israel had priests, high priests, and prophets, yet there were kings in the land.
Right.
And God ordained those kings. Now, initially, it was not the will of God for kings, but yet his children just begged God for one.
Yes.
And I did read where God put a bad king up there, where Elisha went and told the man, you're going to be king. And then he started crying. So he says in 2 Kings, he said, well, why are you crying? He said, because God told me you're going to be king and you're going to mess his people up. But yet God told Elijah to go and anoint, I think it was Hazael, anoint him king.
Yeah.
And told him what the king was, how the bad things that he was going to do.
Yeah.
So I believe, yes, God has a hand in it because, see, sometimes God has to really show us how much we really need him.
Ooh, Lord, have mercy.
Yeah. Like
Bishop,
now.
like right now. Bishop Grant, help us out with this two-party system here. We've got in our country is Democrat, Republican. No, we know we got the Independent and the Green Party and the Liberation Party, what have you. But usually dominating is the Democrats and the Republicans. Okay, is that still necessary? Is it necessary to still have those two parties?
Well, the necessity of two parties is not as significant as having the participation of all of the citizens in the process of democracy. And in the culmination of this experiment called democracy, we have had two parties that have been the most sustained parties from the citizens of the United States of America. I think what we're seeing today is at the extremes now pulling these parties apart, but at the same time, it's almost like when I tell people churches split, but they don't close. Y'all catch it on the way home. Y'all in convocation this week.
Yes, sir.
And so churches split, but they don't close.
Right.
But the more they split, they pull at the fabric of the church in such a way that you just keep splitting and splitting and splitting. You got a bunch of small pieces, but you don't have a whole part.
Right.
And so the fundamentals of a two-party system work for those who work it. This particular election, in the context of this question, was the lowest participation. 56% of Americans participated in this election.
Wow.
And with the potential of well over 240 million people did not vote.
Wow.
240 million, million with an M. did not vote. So those numbers are alarming to us as it relates to people who want to protest and have anger and sentiment against the republic, against the government, and you don't even participate. Let me go back. It's like a church that wants to have an election, and then the person that doesn't come to the church but Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter, they want to vote.
Right.
And after the vote, you don't see them again until the next holiday.
Right.
The dysfunction of participation in the electoral process is fundamental to getting what you didn't want because you left the decision to somebody else.
You left the decision to someone else. Elder Jones?
Yes, sir.
And we're going back and forth here.
Yes, sir.
Both natural and spiritual. Okay? Well, verse 2 of Romans 13 says, whatsoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God. And they, I got new context in. And they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. What is he saying about the resistance?
Well, see, you cannot rebel against authority that has been initiated by God.
Okay.
For instance, if God set the police in order as law enforcers.
Sure.
Now, it's not his fault that we got some bad ones, but there are some good ones, but the law still stands.
Right.
They are law enforcers. If you break a law, you're subject to the law enforcer. Now, you can fight against him for doing what's right or doing his job. You're fighting against him and God.
Yeah.
Because God ordained this particular power to govern and to rule this earth.
That's deep. Bishop, now let's press you on this because you're right. The Hispanic and the African-American vote was extremely low for Hillary Clinton than it was for Barack Obama, okay, which caused the opposing side to get in. Now, why was that? Why is it? Were they excited in 2008 because there was a black man running, or was they just not excited because there was a white woman running? And didn't matter if they were the Democratic Party or not.
The code word is suppression.
Okay.
Suppression. We had African Americans and Hispanics that didn't vote. We had African American and Hispanics who wouldn't vote, and then we had those who could not vote. And the act of suppression, the crown jewel of civil rights, has been the Voting Rights Act. And it is being torn apart at every opportunity. 868 polling places were closed on Election Day. Wow. We've had alarming numbers, whereas white rural vote went up almost 25%, black urban vote went down 9%. So when you have that kind of sway, and you have people, for example, in Detroit on Election Day, they had supposedly a software or technology glitch, which added 1 to 2 hours to people waiting already for 2 hours. So people basically, in many instances, just gave up.
They did.
Because they didn't have the time to give to the process. On the other hand, you had legislation in Indiana. 40,000 registered voters were pulled out of the polls. 40,000. 40,000. And so this idea of enthusiasm, as if you got to be excited about not having health care, I don't know. Go to the emergency room, see how excited you get when they don't take you.
Right.
You have to get excited about fair housing. You have to get excited about affordable education. Right now, student loan debt outpaces any other form of debt in America. Predominantly urban millennials right now owe more than they can make. Wow. They owe more than they can make. Some of them, some estimates are, many of them won't even pay half of what they owe by the time they turn 50. So we live by our faith, but we live under the law.
Right.
And when we really consider our place theologically in a democracy, we've got to really question what is our moral basis. We have 20 million people that this candidate says, January 1, I'm going to repeal and replace Obamacare. 20 million people. My father's been sick for a better part of the past 3 months. And one medicine, the copay is $400.
Wow.
The copay is $400. Yeah. They placed him in a nursing facility that is the equivalence of me driving from Gary, Indiana to Lafayette, Indiana. I mean, the attacks on the poor, on the unemployed, on people of color, immigrants are now children. I live in a Hispanic area. Many parents are reporting their children are afraid to even leave the house because they hear that Donald Trump is going to send them back to Mexico.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we have a moral responsibility.
True.
Yeah. We have a moral responsibility. Jesus asked the question, "Where were you when I was in prison?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you when I was hungry? Where were you when I had no clothes?" He said, "I'm going to have a statement. Everybody got a statement. Depart from me. I don't even know you." That is very critical for us right now, looking at all that is at stake and how we apply biblical principles to a very unethical process.
An unethical process. If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Sir Walter Jones Show, and we're here with the great Bishop Tavis Grant. And
with the Jones boys.
Yeah, with the Jones boys.
Man, we about to cut a record.
We're about to cut it up. We've got the great Elder Rodney Jones, and then we got the great Elder.
Sound check.
Yeah, the great Larry Jones is here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and we're doing this. So, Elder Rodney Jones.
Yes, sir.
Well, verse 3 says, "For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the powers? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same." And then there's a colon there. Then it says, "Hey, engineer, your mic is on. Tell the engineer hey, engineer, can you hear me? Yeah.
They excited.
Can y'all hear me? Y'all's mic is on. Turn your mic off."
They excited.
Because Larry came in.
You got to dial the call-in number if you want to be a part of the show.
Then it says, "For he is a minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain.
Yes.
For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil." What's happening here, because it seemed like we've been on this Romans tip for a while.
Yes, sir.
Every Thursday. And it seemed like the Apostle Paul leading us back, he'd been talking about laws. Now he's talking about the law of the civil laws of the land. So what is he saying here in verse 3 and 4?
Verse 3, he's really saying that the authorities don't strike fear in godly people.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's like you're driving on the expressway and a state trooper pull up behind you. There's no fear that comes upon you because you know that you're in compliance as you travel. But if you're not in compliance, there's a certain fear that come upon you. You're afraid they're going to pull you over and find out what the problem is.
Sure.
So he's really saying that these authorities do not strike fear in people who are right, but in the people who are doing wrong. Then he says, if you want to be without fear, then just do what's right.
Right.
And then when you get, when they come at you for breaking the law, don't go against them.
Yes.
Because when you go against someone who's doing what they're supposed to do because the authority was given to them by God. Now, once again, I'm not speaking about a particular individual, but I'm talking about the authority, the whole system, the legal system, the proper system was set up by God as a mandate on this earth that there be rules and regulations. And when you fight against it, you fight against the Creator who set it all up in order.
Y'all, this is Theology Thursday, and we're bringing up some good stuff here. The Albert C. Carter just walked in right
yes,
there, y'all.
Sir,
man,
the
I
man.
got a full house, boy. I don't know
man.
I don't know how to act.
What does the C stand for?
The C? Crazy.
could lead us in prayer.
Could lead us in prayer. Hey, Bishop, let me push you on this here. The difference between now, be honest with me. The Democratic Party, tell me what the flaws are, and then tell me what the flaws are with the Republican Party.
I think if there are flaws with the Democratic Party, it is that for Christians there is a ethical challenge when you are talking same-sex marriage, gender equality, and for many believers that is a problem, and being able to deliver to its constituency what you claim you can deliver. The deliverables are not always manifested because I think the expectation is the party can do what only people can do. And so people don't follow through with ensuring that once you get the president elected, you got to follow through and do all the other things as it relates to public policy, as it relates to being involved in the process. On the other hand, we have the Republican Party, many people do not know historically, was supported by African Americans because Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. And they said, I'm with the party of Lincoln because he set the slaves free. But we saw Martin Luther King. So we saw in the late 50s after the Brown versus Board of Education, a shift in the Republican Party where evangelicals wanted our votes but didn't want us in their churches.
That's right.
Didn't want us a part of the education process. Didn't want to make us a part of the economic process. And so the Democrats filled the vacuum starting with Kennedy.
Right.
And so the historical aspect of this two-party system and the participation of people of color, specifically African Americans, has swayed with the pendulum historically. And I think that the challenge with the party is the people who have the problems don't participate in the party. Let me just use the church. You got a lot of folk that want to talk about sing, and they can't sing. Y'all don't hear what y'all are musicians, whatnot. They first one said, she can't sing. Well, what choir rehearsal you been at? And what tune or note can you hold? Well, I'm just saying I don't feel the spirit. What spirit you got?
Yeah, what's
they just continue with their critique, and they're not even qualified to have a critique because they don't participate in the church. You have to ask them, I don't like this carpet. Well, where's your tithe?
Right. Yes.
So when we look at the economics of politics, we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom in the roots. Nobody sees the roots. Everybody sees the fruit, Larry. And the fruit comes to who do the cultivating. So this is $1 billion proposition. And you want to show up on one day and give a vote where somebody then gave $500,000, given $2 million to a particular candidate, and you want to matter. The finance dynamic of this it is overwhelming.
And you don't even vote for the down ticket.
You don't even
vote one time, and you feel like I'm good for 4 years.
And to your point, in Illinois specifically, Illinois swept the slate with Democrats, and Hillary Clinton won Illinois. But on the other hand, we had, for example, in the comptroller's race, we had a Democrat that was endorsed by the president, and we had African Americans that split their ticket in Cook County to go with the Republican. So we went with the candidate, but got nothing from the party. Y'all missed what I just said. I'm gonna say it one more time. Yep. We went with the candidate. Let me give y'all a church analogy, because maybe you invited the pastor, but you didn't invite the church.
Oh, now I get it. So
when the pastor showed up, where the church at? No, he said you didn't invite the choir. You just invited me. Y'all didn't hear what I said. That's why I just showed up. You got a mega church. You got X amount of members. I just knew, and I came by myself because you invited me. You didn't invite the church. So we went with the candidate, and look what we got from the party. We got nothing substantial from the party. because the down ticket, you're very much right, Larry, in the down ticket. So when we kind of understand these mechanics, we're not involved enough as a church. Y'all's denomination is in a major convocation.
Right.
With an election, by the way.
Yes.
I ain't voting for nobody.
Yeah.
With an election, by the way. I said to the campaign, the Clinton campaign early on, I said, you can't wait until after the election day to talk to Bishop Blake. Mm-hmm. You got to engage them in the summertime while they're organizing.
That's right.
That went as far as this sound is going in terms of them saying, he got a point, we got to engage them. So part of the flaw is the faulty engagement. The faulty engagement. If you want to get in the church, you need to know somebody. Come on, I don't like them people down in the church. Who you know? I don't know nobody. But then your point is not relevant in terms of your engagement. And I think that's where we miss it. We have people who are marching, for example. But who shows up after a game is over to cheer for their team that lost?
Yes, they lost.
Right.
Y'all ain't go ahead and laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, who shows up at the United Center and the Bulls lost last night, and we're gonna show up. Now we want to show up and talk about the Bulls. Right. It's too late. The game is over.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that the church has to be the moral voice. That's my problem with the church today, is our lack of moral consistency at critical points, and then once it's over, we want to pull our Bible out and start talking about the scriptures and this and the Lord and Jesus did this and all this kind of stuff. The game is over. Mm-hmm. Now we got to play. Now we're going into the playoffs. I mean, if you don't make the playoffs, you just don't make the playoffs. Ain't no sense talking about what we should have done at the beginning of the year. We're at a different cycle now, and we got to be responsible for that.
We're in a different cycle, and we got to be responsible for that. Hey, I'm going to take this break, go to a news air. Mr. Engineer, take me to a news break, and we're going to let loose. I got a question for Larry Jones about his association with his church, because he fellowship with a lot of Caucasian. And I want to find out from his point of view what's going on in that arena. I don't see Carter as a school teacher. I want to find out from him what's going on with those kids. Are they afraid? And are they crying? Because I heard some news yesterday about the vote and how kids are afraid. All right, let's talk about that. All right, I want to do some news. You got my underbed, or you want me to just go right there?
The morning kickoff with Mike Calibers. Monday, Sir Walter Jones. Now, UBM Radio.
Investigative reports, Thursday, November 10th, 2016. The official first meeting of the 90-minute meeting between President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump today at the White House was reported as being cordial, and the two men appeared to have put their differences aside and focused on the upcoming transfer of power. President Obama said, and as I quote, "I want to emphasize to you, Mr. President-elect, that we now are going to do everything we can to help you succeed, because if you succeed, then the country succeeds," end quote. First Lady Michelle Obama also met privately with Melania Trump. Vice President Biden met with Vice President-elect Mike Pence later today. From the White House, Trump headed to Capitol Hill for meetings with House Speaker Ryan and Senate Majority Leader McConnell to discuss the GOP legislative agenda. An honorable celebration. Indeed, tomorrow we will be honoring military veterans as our nation will be celebrating Veterans Day. Many national chains are saying thank you to veterans and active military members by offering freebies and deals on food and drinks. Bob Evans, IHOP, Applebee's, Red Lobster, Longhorn, and Outback Steakhouses are just a few among many locations that are taking part in the special meal deal celebration. For an extended list of the restaurants, go ahead and visit VeteransDayMealDeals.com. And don't forget to tell a veteran thank you for your service. And here's an interesting fact of the early church worship service. The first part of an early Christian worship assembly was open to all, including strangers, who might be converted by the preaching. And the second part of the service involved the Lord's Supper, which only the baptized were allowed to partake. So the unbaptized departed then. Yeah, that has been Investigative Reports from Mary Nikita for the Sir Walter Jones Show. Welcome back, everybody. This is Sir Walter Jones Show, and I'm so excited to have a full room of brothers. Elder Rodney Jones, Larry Jones, the great, the writer, songwriter, poet that is, and he is a movie producer. All this stuff is happening over there at Marillax Media, and we got the great teacher and preacher, Alvin C. Carter, and Bishop Tavis Grant is here, who's giving us some instructions on what we need to do. Elder Rodney Jones,
Yes,
I'm going to take this ball and throw it at you right quick.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we were talking about verse of chapter 13, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But verse 5 says here, wherefore you must needs be subject, not only forward, but also for conscience sake, for thus, and that's what the Bible says, for this cause, pay ye tribute. Also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. And the last verse is, rendering therefore to all their dues. Tribute to whom tribute is due. Custom to whom custom. Fear to whom fear. Honor to whom honor. What's going on here?
So he says in verse 5 that, number one, we're supposed to submit to them, not just to avoid any type of punishment, but we're supposed to submit to them for conscience sake. We, as a believer, we have a civil duty and we have a moral duty, a moral right. Yes, we sing at church, we play, we have fun, we speak in tongues and all of that. When you finish, when you walk out that door, you are a citizen of whatever place you are citizens of, and you're subject to the rules and the regulations. And you are a representative of God. And here in the verse 6, when he finished talking, I'm trying to say conclude. When I'm trying to say conclude, to avoid punishment and with a clear conscience, Alvin C. Carter ain't gonna let me rest on that one.
He know.
The next verse says what we're supposed to do is a civil duty is to pay your taxes.
Yes.
Because I believe, now help me if I'm wrong, that's one of the ways these authorities live, off of our taxes that we pay. Which really means if we pay taxes, then they're really subject to us because we are tax-paying citizens.
Right.
Which really says if you don't pay taxes, you really ain't got nothing to say, but you're still supposed to be subject to them. But if you're not paying your taxes to the laws of the land, then you're going against the scriptures.
Yes. Okay.
So at all times, as a saint or as a Christian, we're supposed to find ourselves doing what's right.
That's good stuff. As we know, Donald Trump got away from paying how many? Was it $50 million of taxes? $50 million. Okay. He said, so it makes me wonder. Oh, how I wonder.
No federal taxes.
No federal taxes. So pretty much.
That'd be nice for everybody.
Yeah. Even though all this stuff happened, he still got in office. So that says something about America, doesn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We lost our moral value.
We sure did. Elder, hey, listen, Larry Jones, I need to find out from you, if the people want to know, you live in Indiana. Okay, you live in Penn State.
Yes, sir.
Okay, where that Donald Trump took that state.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what's going on? BR closet voice. What's going on down there among the people that you fellowship with?
Well, I'm out there with the bishop.
Yeah, with the bishop. That's
we
right.
out there together holding Indiana down.
That's right.
Come on now.
IND.
Yeah, well, here's what's happening. Northwest Indiana is a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah.
Indiana is a state that's diversely split.
Put that mic, Turn his
Indiana
mic up.
is a state that's split in two halves. You got the southern, which is more rural. They're mostly Republican based, and then you got Northwest Indiana, which is more Democratic based, because it's where we get all our media from: TV, radio, etc. So we're basically a suburb of Chicago,
right?
But since you say I come from the land of Caca, Caucasian, however you put it.
White Mountains.
Christians are confused because of the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And myself included. I'm not confused. I'm just tired of the hypocrisy from both sides, right? So you got Christians in the pulpits and this and that and the other. I think to a degree we go too far with telling people who to vote for. Educate people and let people make their own decisions. That's where I stand. I make educated decisions on what And like me and the bishop was talking about, I call him the bishop, but we all went to high school together, all four of us. Of Albert C. Carter.
Yes, sir.
But the educated decision. So, for instance, all of the black pastors, and we have to look at the truth. Sometimes you got to stand for God, even if it means correcting your own family member.
True.
Right? So you're a preacher of the gospel. You don't believe in certain things, but your president passed certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just said we pay their salaries, right? So we tell them what's good and what's not.
True.
But nobody said, no, President, this is not right. Mm-hmm. This is not right the way you're treating the prime minister. This is not right. Some of the bills that you're passing. Just because we vote a person in don't mean we give them the green light on every term. We don't just turn them loose.
Right.
That's like a pastor without a board.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want to do. So people in that area because it's split. You got white Republicans and white Democrats. It's split. Right down the middle. You can see the votes. It's split right down the middle, even though Hillary won by 1 million votes. But that's another whole topic, how that electoral thing is just jacked up.
Sure.
But people are tired. Christians are tired of the hypocrisy on both sides. Just like Donald Trump. You know, he's a predator. Mm-hmm. He's a sexual predator. And they put a microphone to a young lady's mouth, and she says, I don't care. So on one side of our tongue, we're saying we're not voting the pastor. But then on the other side of your tongue, they're saying, but they're not upholding my morals.
They care about Bill Cosby.
Yes.
Oh, exactly. I don't care about. I mean,
absolutely.
My challenge to evangelicals and African American Christians is to understand the difference between being biblical and being ethical.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we're in a democracy. A number of us let the president know, for example, that we were not in favor of the same-sex marriage. Mm-hmm. All right. So if you're against it, all you got to do is just don't marry nobody that's gay.
Right. But enough didn't, and that's why it got passed.
But what I'm saying is
enough didn't, and I think we're agreeing more than we're disagreeing.
We're agreeing wholeheartedly. The gay, lesbian, LGBT community lobbied.
Yes.
Like we lobbied for the voting rights bill.
But better, because they know how to come together.
And they stuck together on one issue. The issue is we want same-sex marriage.
That's it.
Now, in the context of democracy, you lose that argument in democracy. You win it in theocracy.
In theology, but in democracy.
In a theocracy, you lose it. You win it, but in a democracy, you lose it.
Right.
And I think that the fundamentals of evangelicals not understanding how you so upset you're not going to eat Jell-O pudding, you're not going to watch reruns of Bill Cosby, you're not going to drink Coca-Cola with his face on it because these 50-some women came up and said, now he's not been charged with anything.
Again, Mike, I'm agreeing with you. That's the hypocrisy that people is tired of.
This man challenged the president's birth.
Yes.
For nearly 15 years.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And talked about on a bus with another guy who's in media how you're a sexual predator. None of my friends have that. We didn't have that conversation back in school.
But let me tell you something. There's a kid that lives 6 blocks from here.
You've never been to a locker room, Larry.
6 blocks from here.
We talk about what we want. We don't talk about grabbing a woman against her will.
He lives 6 blocks from this station. Went to Oklahoma State University. Mm-hmm. Some white girls alleged that he did it. Mm-hmm. They picked him out from a website a probability it might be him. Mm-hmm. He lost 4 years of his life and ended up being a registered sex offender.
Right.
And if it hadn't have been for T. Boone Pickens, a conservative oil tycoon, putting money up for his appeal, and come to find out that jurors were tampered with, prosecutor held back evidence, and now he's playing ball off of the sexual predator list because he had the money to work the system.
Right.
Now you can't say that Donald Trump that's just locker room banter. There are some kids right now at 26 in California that are being held up on the same charges.
Yes.
Waiting to turn 16 so they can prosecute them as an adult.
Well, this is the hypocrisy. This is why Christians are confused. Donald Trump, a lot of people don't know, also has a pending rape case.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not turning this into a Donald Trump bashing, but you asked me the question, what do people think? People are confused with the church stance on everything because of the hypocrisy of the leaders. What I mean is you got a white evangelist will come up and say God showed him that Trump was supposed to be the president. And then you got a black preacher get up and says, you know, Hillary's supposed to be, and we got two people. You can't tell me out of all of the millions of people that these were the two best candidates. Both parties got hijacked, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I said. Let me tell you what I
hijacked.
said earlier, and I'll say it again. Bernie Sanders was never a Democrat.
No.
And Donald Trump was never a Republican.
You're right.
And
You're absolutely
and
right.
the system this year, because the phenomena of Barack Obama.
Yep.
The phenomena of Barack Obama in the first few months of his presidency, he wins a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, he sure did.
Y'all know how many people do and never get their name on a trophy.
Yep.
He gets the no. I mean, so the phenomena politically made folks think what we can do, Walter, is we can rig the system. We can game the system. We can, and you want to say, well, okay, I'm an evangelical, and he's against abortion, and he's going to put somebody on the Supreme Court that's going to be against abortion, but they're also going to be pro-death penalty. I mean, so you want them to be born, but I also want the right to kill.
There's a lot of hypocrisy
and that's the hypocrisy
on both sides
that hurts us in the fundamentals of a democracy.
Yes,
and
then you got some of the evangelicals. Let's face it, you got evangelical preachers that they're evangelical preachers, but they are prejudiced as all get out, and I'll call them out. They're prejudiced. Under the cloak of God, you had back in slavery days, you had slave owners praying to God, telling slaves that they're supposed to be good servants according to the Bible. But you know what? This contentiousness and young America is not putting up with this stuff. This stuff is going to bust wide open.
Yeah.
And if you truly a child of the King, eventually the colors are going to start breaking down, because it's going to be, we talk about race, there's classism played a lot with this race.
That's true. If you just tuned in, this is Sir Walter Jones Show. This is my station break, not break, but ID. UBM Radio. Got to do this, y'all. Got to do it. Alvin Carter is back, y'all. He's been away for a little while, working like a Hebrew slave. Alvin Carter, man, can you jump in here? That people need to hear your voice.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing?
Hi, Dad.
Hey.
Now every man in here gonna drop their voice since he's talking. All right, go ahead, man.
I want to address a few things, but first, the day after the election, I went to work, and when the school began to get populated, all I heard was, Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter, what's going to happen? The kids were in terror. Now, the backdrop is the demographics of my school is 65% Hispanic. No, Mexican.
Wow. They're more scared than anybody.
Right. Maybe 30%. No, maybe 25% black, a few whites, and other. And I kept hearing, we're going to have to go to Mexico. One girl said, my uncle is selling his truck, and he's trying to sell everything now so he can have enough money so when they send him back to Mexico, he can start a life there. And I told them, I just happened to teach on the election process the day before, on Monday. So I called them back to the social studies book. And I told them there's something called checks and balances I told you about. I said,
come on now.
What people fail to realize, regardless of the title that man holds, it's the question of his influence that's more dangerous. Because nothing happens, as we talked on an earlier show, until a man or a member of that puts a motion on the floor. And then somebody seconds it, and then the votes take place. If there's no motion, there's no action. Now, Larry alluded to the generation that's not taking it. I think that we're going to see something that's resembled the 60s, which we all were very tiny tots. And it's something
Except Rodney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it may even be a little worse because they have this sense of restoration and empowerment. Like Eddie Murphy would say after they go see a Rocky movie, all right, Rocco! You know, and they're all in, you know.
Right.
Now, I saw that at work because there's quite a few white teachers in my school. One of the young teachers that I'm mentoring is a young white man who's just 22 years old. He whispered in my ear, he says, I'm ashamed to be white because of the way I see people acting and the way I see things and how people are, you know, behaving. And I said, why'd you say that? Well, I said, never mind, I know why you said it. Because when we walk out the room and you all are together, you hear other stuff. He says, exactly.
Yep.
So regardless of what people may say in shock, he won because a lot of people said they was for Hillary, but they voted. They voted for Trump.
For Trump, that's true.
And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be honest with you. People want to dismiss some of the culture, not cultural, the religious positions. But when I posted that morning, when you put the agenda of the few over the needs of the masses react in an irrational rage. And that's what happened. Demographically, I don't care if every African-American had voted or every Hispanic had voted. We're outnumbered. Problem is, they took a play out of our book and said, hey, Beck and Sue, Leroy. No, they don't call him Leroy. They call him Melvin? Purvis?
Washington.
No, they went and got, because who elected him? 77% were uneducated white men. And then you had the white women.
Yeah.
Even some white women at work said, I don't see a woman in that position.
Right.
Right.
They didn't trust her. Now, y'all used to. This is a prime example of the sisterhood being broken.
There it is.
This is a prime example of the sisterhood being broken.
Yeah.
Now, with all that being said, one of the things we have to do is get in the ear of our young people and tell them how to respond to this. Because, see, their anger and their rage is going to backfire.
Yes.
Look what happened in Mount Greenwood.
Sure.
I read Pastor Flager's post last night that he put on Facebook. He said he hadn't seen such hate and such rage since he was a kid when Dr. King marched in Marquette Park. And he said they told him, get away from here before we break your legs and drag you with a truck. They said that to another another white man. So the hate is so deeply rooted, and it manifested in this election. And I believe Trump played the game, and when he saw it working, I don't know if he was shocked that it worked.
I believe he was shocked.
Yeah.
I've been following him for a long time.
He's shocked because
In that mic.
he went to the White House today with no transition team.
He did.
Yeah.
I mean, to your point, he got fewer votes. McCain got 60 million votes. Romney got 61 million. He got 59, and Hillary still beat him.
Yeah.
I mean, they were playing a numbers game from the beginning.
Yes.
If you can keep the turnout low,
Yes.
if you can keep it low enough that you can keep the rate. Some coaches say, listen, let's just keep it. They might be up, but let's keep it close to the third quarter. Because if we keep it close to the third quarter, a couple of points, we can swing the game. I mean, and the fundamentals of Trump gaming the system, using suppression, using fear, using attack.
And a lot of his constituents, his southern uneducated white male constituents, didn't talk to the pollsters.
But not only
so
that,
all the polls were off.
But here, not only that, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they owe President Barack Obama. This nation was going down a slippery slope of recession, the worst recession since the Depression. And the margins by which we lost were margins that had we turned out based upon our potential.
Right.
And had we not had some of our people throw their vote away in third-party politics, which got us nothing. I don't mind you being on the other team.
Well,
but at least win something.
I talked to somebody from Michigan, and here's what really happened. Hillary made some big mistakes. She talked about when she goes to a coal mining state, West Virginia. She goes to a coal mining state. She made a comment. I understood.
I heard it.
She's pushing towards clean coal. Me and you understand that.
Yeah.
But when you say we're going to put the coal workers out of business, she could have said the same thing in a smarter way and saying, hey, we're going to train you guys first in clean coal technology. Then we're going to make the switch. Same thing she was saying. But, of course, Trump and his team take that and they bashed it to death. And it was fear-mongering in those states. The same thing in Michigan, all those industrial states. They were taught Hillary and her husband stole you guys' jobs.
NAFTA.
Exactly.
I'm going to help y'all with something.
Mm-hmm.
NAFTA was not good for the unions, but it was good for the underclass of working minorities.
Yes.
Who cannot afford to get in the unions, who cannot get into the apprenticeship. And when you're in a right-to-work state like Mississippi,
right,
a right-to-work state like Indiana,
mm-hmm.
a right-to-work state like Wisconsin. A right-to-work state like Michigan
mm-hmm.
is becoming a right-to-work. Are y'all following this pattern?
Yes.
You needing a union job that takes more out of your check than sometimes you make. At the end of the day, you make an economic decision. Manufacturing is not coming back to the United States as it was. So this whole dream of making America great again is a farce.
So I think
you got to find out what a great again means to
give
him.
Us, we got an entire 1 minute.
The Bible says in 1 Timothy 2 is that we're supposed to pray for those that lead us in authority, that we may live a peaceable and godly and
y'all gonna have to pray
life.
for Trump.
Yes.
And I say one thing about Trump, and they represent what this world is.
Yep.
We've lost our moral values. We spend more time talking against the other person and their downfalls rather than talking about what we can do together.
Good
and
clue.
finally, what I'm saying is this is a time for America and for all of the Christians to understand something, that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God.
My God.
We're about to find out that the only way we're going to live is we're going to have to return to God. And return to our moral and family values. That's the only way we're going to make it.
Moral and family values.
All agree with that.
Amen. Robert Taylor says that's true. A lot of white evangelical preachers are extremely racist, but have a church full of black folks.
Right.
They put us over the music, and they don't put us in positions of general boards or whatever. Yeah, that's so true. Got to get out of here, y'all. Tune in again next Wednesday, Music Business Show. I thank you guys. Hey, this is the Sir Walter Jones Show.
You have been listening to the Sir Walter Jones Show, where Sir Walter Jones provides you with a biblical perspective on everyday life. Stay connected to Sir Walter Jones at his website, www.sirwalterjones.com. Search The Sir Walter Jones Show on Facebook or follow on Twitter at Sir Walter's Music. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Sir Walter Jones Show with Sir Walter Jones.
Hey, ladies and gents, if you missed any of today's show, head to Spreaker.com and search The Sir Walter Jones Show and listen to this show and past shows. Now remember, search for The Sir Walter Jones Show on Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker spelled SPREAKER.com. And enjoy.
You've been listening to The Sir Walter Jones Show with your co-host, Alvin C. Carter.
Right, Mr. Walters?